The divorce was 3 months behind her when Naomi kissed a stranger in a hotel room and disappeared before dawn. She thought she'd never see him again. But when she arrived at her daughter's boyfriend's family resort, he was standing at the dinner table, watching her with eyes that said he hadn't forgotten, and he wasn't letting her run this time. Let her tell you how she got here. Naomi had signed divorce papers in a lawyer's office that smelled like stale coffee and endings. 22 years of marriage, gone in 30 minutes. People asked why she'd stayed so long. They didn't understand that he'd never hit her. He didn't have to. He'd erased her slowly. Every opinion she had was too sensitive. Every boundary she set was overreacting. Every time she tried to take up space, he made the room smaller, until she learned to disappear. Her daughter Freya had cried when Naomi told her she was leaving. Not because she was sad, because she was relieved. "Mom," Freya had said, gripping her hands, "I've been waiting for you to choose yourself." Naomi had survived him, but she didn't know how to live after. Her friends decided to celebrate for her since she didn't know how to celebrate herself. They threw her a party at an upscale hotel, the kind of place with pulsing music and beautiful, careless people overflowing from every doorway. Naomi felt like an imposter in her own life. She clutched a drink she hadn't touched and smiled when her friends told her to loosen up, to do something just for herself. When the noise became too much, she escaped to a quieter hallway. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Your 10 p.m. appointment is confirmed. Room 1147. Discretion guaranteed." Her friends had hired someone, an escort, their gift to her. One night where she could feel beautiful, desired, in control. She stared at the text, equal parts terrified and curious. She almost deleted it. But then she thought about all the years she'd made herself small, all the years she'd been told that wanting anything was selfish. So she went. Her hand shook as she knocked on the door of room 1147. The door opened, and everything she thought she knew about desire shattered. The man standing in the doorway was impeccably dressed in a full suit, his shirt unbuttoned at the collar, the tie already loosened. He looked to be in his late 20s, devastatingly composed. But there was something raw in his eyes, something lonely. The suit caught her off guard for a moment. So formal, so professional. But then it made sense. Discretion. Anyone who saw them together would think this was just business. A meeting. Nothing more. It was smart. Careful. He looked at her. Really looked. Not the way men had looked through her during her marriage. Not the way strangers glanced past middle-aged women. He looked at her like she was the only thing in the room worth seeing. This was him. This had to be him. Her friends had excellent taste. Shock registered on his face, clear and unguarded. His lips parted as if to speak, to ask what she was doing there, who she was looking for. But Naomi didn't give him the chance. She was done with hesitation, done with asking permission to want things. She stepped forward and kissed him. His body stiffened for a split second, caught completely off guard. Then something in him surrendered. He returned the kiss with a passion that stole her breath, his hands finding her waist and pulling her closer. His touch was reverent, exploratory, as if he was memorizing every curve, every line of her body. Naomi felt wanted for the first time in her life. Not tolerated. Not endured. Wanted. He guided her inside, the door closing behind them with a soft click. His hands never stopped moving, tracing the curve of her hip, the small of her back, the line of her spine. He kissed her like she was air and he'd been drowning. Whatever questions he'd had, whatever confusion had flickered across his face, was gone now. There was only hunger, only need. They made love slowly, passionately. He worshipped every inch of her skin as if she were something sacred, something he'd been searching for his entire life. He whispered words in Korean against her neck, her collarbone, her lips. Words she didn't understand but felt in her bones. The tenderness in his voice, the reverence told her everything she needed to know. Yobo, he murmured between kisses, his breath hot against her skin. Aramdaweo, he whispered as his hands mapped her body. She didn't know the words, but she understood. She was seen. She was beautiful. She was his, if only for this one night. He never asked why she was there, never asked her name. And she never offered it. Some part of her understood that this wasn't about names or explanations. This was about two lonely people finding something they'd both been missing. By the time they fell asleep, tangled together in sheets that smelled like him, Naomi felt like a different woman. Like someone who deserved softness. Someone who deserved desire. The next morning, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. She reached for it groggily, squinting at the screen. A text from Freya. Mom, don't forget your flight is at noon. Can't wait to see you at the resort. Reality crashed back in. Naomi sat up carefully, her heart pounding. He was still asleep beside her, his face peaceful in the early morning light. One arm was draped across the space where she'd been, as if even in sleep he was reaching for her. She couldn't stay. This had been what it was supposed to be. One perfect night with a professional who knew how to make a woman feel alive again. Beautiful. It couldn't be more than that. Moving quietly, she gathered her clothes and dressed in the dim light. She found her purse, pulled out some cash, more than enough, she hoped, and left it on the table beside the bed. Then she grabbed the hotel notepad and pen, her hand trembling as she wrote, "Thank you. For making me feel seen. For making me feel wanted. For one perfect night where I remembered who I used to be." She couldn't write all that. So she left just the two words. She looked back at him one last time. This beautiful, lonely man who'd made her feel alive. Then she slipped out the door before she could change her mind. The door closed with a soft click behind her. Inside the room, Hajun's eyes opened the moment the door clicked shut. He'd been awake for the past 10 minutes, feeling her slip from his arms, hearing her move around the room. He sat up slowly and stared at the cash on the table, at the note with its two inadequate words. His jaw tightened as understanding crashed over him like a wave. She thought he was an escort. She thought she'd hired him for the night. She thought what they'd shared, the vulnerability, the whispered words, the way they'd clung to each other like drowning people finding shore, was a transaction she could pay for and walk away from. For the first time in years, something cracked in his carefully controlled expression. Not anger. Something worse. Hurt. He picked up the cash with hands that weren't quite steady, stared at it for a long moment, then set it back down. She'd kissed him first. She'd chosen him, even if she'd chosen him for the wrong reasons. And the way she'd responded to his touch, the way she'd whispered his name like a prayer, even though she didn't know who he was, that hadn't been acting. That had been real. And he wasn't going to let her disappear without knowing who he really was. Without knowing that what happened between them wasn't something she could pay for. Because men like him, men who ran empires, who carried the weight of family legacy on their shoulders, who'd forgotten what it felt like to be touched without agenda, didn't get paid for intimacy. They got ruined by it. Naomi sat in the cab to the airport, her body still humming with the memory of his touch. She told herself it was enough. One perfect night with someone who knew exactly what to do, exactly what to say. A memory she could keep when the loneliness came back. Her phone exploded with messages from the group chat. So? Details now. Did he show up? Tell me you didn't chicken out. She typed, "It was perfect." Then deleted it. Typed, "It was exactly what I needed." She sent that instead. She didn't tell them the truth, that the escort they'd hired had been more than she'd expected, that he'd whispered words in a language she didn't understand but felt in her soul, that he'd made her feel like someone worth worshipping. She didn't tell them that she'd left cash on the table and a note that said nothing close to what she actually felt. She didn't tell them that she was already mourning him. She had no idea that the man in room 1147 hadn't been hired at all, that he'd been as shocked by her appearance as she would have been if she'd known the truth. She had no idea that she'd just walked away from one of the wealthiest men in Seoul. A man who'd spent the night with her not because he was paid to, but because for the first time in a decade, someone had looked at him like he was just a man. Not a legacy, not an obligation, just a man. The resort was paradise. White sand stretched endlessly, meeting waters so clear it looked like glass. Villas were hidden in tropical gardens, each one its own private sanctuary. It was the kind of place where people came to forget their real lives. Naomi unpacked in her villa while Freya bounced around excitedly, pointing out the infinity pool and the view of the ocean. "Mom, tonight there's a welcome dinner. Kang Dae's family will be there. It's super casual, I promise. His uncle might even show up." "Uncle?" Naomi asked absently, already distracted by the ocean view from her balcony. "Yeah, Kang Dae's uncle basically raised him after his parents died. He's intense, but in a good way. You'll like him." Naomi smiled, not really listening. She wasn't thinking about meeting anyone. She was thinking about how far she'd come, how free she finally felt. She was thinking about a hotel room and a man whose name she didn't even know. That evening, she arrived at the outdoor dinner setup in a simple linen dress. String lights crisscrossed overhead, and the sound of the ocean provided a constant backdrop. It was elegant but relaxed. Freya waved her over to a table where Kang Dae sat with an older couple. "Mrs. Thompson." "Welcome." Kang Dae stood, grinning. Naomi laughed. "Please call me Naomi." There was small talk, laughter. Naomi started to relax into the warmth of it all. Then the older woman at the table looked past her shoulder. "Oh, there he is. We were worried you wouldn't make it." Naomi turned. Time stopped. Hajun walked toward the table, dressed in dark linen, his hair slightly windblown. He was mid-conversation with someone, laughing at something. Then he saw her. The laugh died. Recognition hit them both like lightning. For 3 full seconds, neither of them moved. The world tilted on its axis. Room 1147. The cash on the table. The man she'd thought she'd paid for the night. No, Naomi thought, her blood turning to ice. This couldn't be happening. Freya, oblivious to the tension crackling in the air, jumped up. "Uncle Hajun." "This is my mom, Naomi. Mom, this is Kang Dae's uncle." Uncle, family, not an escort. Oh God. Hajun's expression was unreadable, but his eyes were screaming. He extended his hand, formal and controlled. "Naomi, it's a pleasure to meet you." She took his hand. The moment his fingers touched the inside of her wrist, that exact spot he'd touched the night before when he'd whispered Korean words against her skin, her breath caught audibly. He felt it too. His grip tightened for just a second. "The pleasure is mine," she managed, her voice barely steady. They held eye contact for a beat too long. Freya glanced between them, a small frown creasing her forehead. Should we sit?" Hajun released Naomi's hand and sat across from her. The table suddenly felt impossibly small. He wasn't an escort. He was Kang Dae's uncle. He was family. And she'd left money on his nightstand like he was something she could buy. Naomi couldn't breathe, couldn't think. This couldn't be happening. Dinner began with surface-level conversation, But under the table, Naomi's hands were clenched in her lap. Hajun was the picture of composure, answering questions and smiling at Freya, but every few seconds his eyes slid to Naomi. And every time they did, she felt it like a physical touch. "Hajun, you look tense," the older man commented. "Hard week at the office?" Something like that. Hajun replied smoothly. "I needed to get away." His eyes met Naomi's deliberately. "This island has always been my escape. The one place I can forget obligations." The words were for everyone at the table, but the meaning was for her alone. The hotel had been his escape, too. And she'd walked into his room by mistake. Naomi cleared her throat. "I understand the need to escape. Sometimes the only way to survive is to disappear for a while." Hajun's jaw tightened visibly. "And when you reappear?" She met his eyes directly. "Hopefully you're not the same person who left." Silence stretched between them like a wire pulled taut. Freya laughed awkwardly, breaking the tension. "Wow, you two are intense. Mom, I didn't know you were a philosopher." Naomi forced a smile and looked away from Hajun, just thinking out loud. Later, as dessert was being served, Hajun's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then stood. "Excuse me, I need to take this." As he walked past Naomi's chair, he paused. His hand hovered near her shoulder, not touching, but she felt the heat of it anyway. "Don't leave this time," he said low enough that only she could hear. "And don't insult me with cash again." Then he was gone. Naomi's stomach dropped. He was angry. Of course he was angry. She'd treated him like... Freya leaned in, whispering, "Is it just me? Or is Uncle Hajun being weird?" "I didn't notice," Naomi said too quickly. Freya's eyes narrowed slightly, but she didn't push. Naomi watched Hajun on the phone in the distance. Even as he talked, he was looking at her. He knew. He remembered that night. That room. Her. And he was letting her decide how to play this. By the time dinner wound down, Naomi stood to leave, but Hajun returned just as she did. The others were distracted with conversation, leaving them alone for half a second. "Room 1147 was a mistake?" he asked quietly. "Yes," she whispered. I thought you were, I know what you thought." Her eyes snapped to his, mortified. "I don't do this for money, Naomi." His voice was low, controlled, but there was an edge to it. "What happened between us wasn't a transaction, and I'm going to make sure you understand that before you leave this island." He walked away, leaving her frozen. 3 weeks on a private island, with the man she'd accidentally slept with. The man she'd left cash on the table for like he was something she could buy. The man who was her daughter's boyfriend's uncle. And her daughter had no idea. Naomi didn't sleep that night. She lay in her villa bed, staring at the ceiling fan spinning lazy circles above her, and replayed every moment of the dinner. The way Hajun's hand had lingered on her wrist. The way his voice had dropped when he said, "I don't do this for money." The way he'd looked at her like she was a puzzle he intended to solve. And the way that older woman, Aunt Mincio, they'd called her, had watched the entire exchange with eyes that missed nothing. She'd insulted him, mortified him, left cash on his nightstand like he was... She pressed her palms against her eyes and groaned. By the time morning light filtered through the curtains, she'd made a decision. She would avoid him. The island was big enough. She'd spend time with Freya, enjoy the beach, stay far away from Kangdae's uncle and the mess she'd created. It was a good plan. It lasted exactly 4 hours. Naomi was at the resort's beachside cafe, nursing an iced coffee and pretending to read a book when a shadow fell across her table. "You're avoiding me." She looked up, and there he was. Hajun stood with his hands in the pockets of his linen pants, wearing a simple white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. He looked relaxed, casual, but his eyes were sharp. "I'm not avoiding you," she lied. "I'm reading." He glanced at the book in her hands. "It's upside down." Naomi looked down. He was right. She'd been holding it upside down for God knows how long. Heat flooded her cheeks. She set the book down carefully. "What do you want?" "To talk." He pulled out the chair across from her and sat without waiting for permission. "About room 1147. "There's nothing to talk about," she said quickly, her voice low. "It was a mistake. I thought you were someone else. I'm sorry for what I did. For the cash. For everything. Are you sorry it happened?" The question caught her off guard. She opened her mouth, then closed it. "Because I'm not." He continued, his voice steady. "I'm angry about the cash, yes. I'm angry that you thought I was something you could pay for. But I'm not sorry about what happened between us." Naomi's heart hammered in her chest. "You should be. I'm your nephew's girlfriend's mother. This is complicated," he finished. "I know. More than complicated. Impossible." She glanced around nervously, making sure no one was close enough to hear. "You're young. You have your whole life ahead of you, and I'm—" "Stop." His voice was firm enough that she fell silent. "You've been doing that since dinner last night. Looking at me like I'm some kid who doesn't understand what he wants." "I didn't—" "How old do you think I am, Naomi?" The direct question threw her. She felt heat creep up her neck. "That's not relevant." "It is when you keep using it as an excuse." He leaned forward, his eyes locked on hers. "Tell me, how old do you think I am?" She couldn't hold his gaze. 28, maybe 29. "I'm 35. Her eyes snapped back to his. 35? Not some kid barely out of his 20s. 35 meant he'd lived, had his own scars, his own history. Still younger than her, yes, but not— "It doesn't matter," she said, though her voice wavered. "Your age doesn't change anything. This can't happen." "Can't?" He tilted his head slightly. "Or shouldn't?" "Both." "I disagree." The quiet confidence in his voice made her pulse spike. She stood abruptly, grabbing her book. "I have to go. Freya's waiting for me." "Freya's with Kang Day at the North Beach," Hajun said calmly. "They won't be back until this evening." Naomi froze. "How do you—" I asked. He stood as well, moving around the table until he was standing close. Too close. "I wanted to talk to you alone." "Why?" The word came out breathless. He reached out slowly, giving her every chance to pull away, and brushed his thumb across the inside of her wrist. The same spot he'd touched in the hotel room, the same spot he'd touched at dinner. "Because I need you to understand something," he said quietly. "What happened between us wasn't a mistake. Not for me. And I don't think it was for you either." She should pull away. She should tell him to stop. Instead, she stood there, feeling the heat of his touch burn through her skin. "I left money on your table," she whispered. "I treated you like someone who was there to serve you." He finished. "I know. And that's the only reason I'm not angrier. Because you didn't know. You thought that's what I was. But now you do know. And I need to know, would you have kissed me if you'd known the truth?" The question hung in the air between them. Would she have? If she'd known he was a wealthy patriarch, a man of power and control, would she have walked into that room and taken what she wanted? "I don't know," she admitted. "Then let me make it easier for you." He stepped back, giving her space. "Have dinner with me tonight. Just the two of us. Let me apologize properly for making you think I was something I'm not. Let us have an actual conversation where we're not pretending for Freya and Kangdae. Hajun, I'm not asking for anything beyond that, he said, his voice gentler now. No promises, no commitments. Just two people who shared something unexpected, having an honest conversation about what it was. You at least owe me that, don't you think? After leaving cash on my nightstand? The slight edge in his voice, not cruel but pointed, made her flinch. He was right. She did owe him that much. An explanation, a real conversation, something more than avoidance and apologies. One dinner, she heard herself say. Just talking. Just talking, he agreed. Unless you want more. The challenge in his voice sent heat pooling low in her belly, but she forced herself to ignore it. Where? Meet me at the Eastern Dock at sunset. Wear something comfortable? This isn't... She started. It's not a date, he finished. It's a conversation we should have had the morning after, that's all. She studied his face, looking for manipulation or pressure, but found only sincerity. And maybe that's what scared her most. That he was being genuine. That he really did just want to talk. Okay, she said quietly. Sunset. He nodded once, then walked away, leaving her standing there with her upside-down book and a racing heart. What Naomi didn't see was Aunt Minseo sitting at a table on the upper terrace, partially hidden by a decorative screen, watching the entire exchange. Her teacup paused halfway to her lips as she observed the way Hajun looked at this woman, the way his hand had lingered on her wrist. She set the cup down carefully, her expression unreadable. Interesting. By the time evening arrived, Naomi had changed her outfit 4 times and cursed herself for agreeing to this at least 20 times more. It's just a conversation, she told herself. You owe him that much. But as she made her way down the path toward the Eastern Dock, her hands were shaking. The Eastern Dock was quieter than the main beach, tucked away behind a curve of rocks. A small boat was tied there, and Hajun stood beside it, barefoot, wearing dark pants and a simple linen shirt. He looked up as she approached, and something shifted in his expression. Something warm. You came, he said. I said I would. You also said you'd stay that morning at the hotel. He offered his hand to help her into the boat. Forgive me for not taking your word at face value. She took his hand, feeling the familiar spark at his touch. Where are we going? Somewhere we can talk without interruption. He steadied her as she stepped into the boat, then untied it from the dock. Trust me. I don't know you well enough to trust you. He glanced at her as he started the engine. You trusted me enough that night. She couldn't argue with that. They rowed in silence for about 10 minutes, the boat cutting through calm water as the sun began its descent toward the horizon. Finally, Hajun slowed the engine and guided them toward a small, secluded cove. A blanket was already laid out on the sand. A basket sat beside it. Lanterns hung from the trees, unlit but ready. You planned this, Naomi said as he helped her out of the boat. I hoped. He corrected. There's a difference. He led her to the blanket and they sat facing the water. The sun painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, the kind of sunset that belonged in postcards. This is beautiful, she admitted. It's private. He pulled containers from the basket. Fresh fruit, cheese, bread, wine. No one comes here except me. I found it when I was younger after my brother died, when I needed to escape the weight of everything. It was the first truly personal thing he'd shared. Naomi turned to look at him. Kangdae's father? He nodded. He and his wife died in a car accident when Kangdae was 8. I became his guardian. The family patriarch. I was 23. That's so young. I didn't have a choice. He poured wine into 2 glasses. My father was already ill. My aunt, you met her last night, Aunt Minseo? She tried to help, but ultimately the responsibility fell to me. Someone had to step up. Someone had to hold everything together. And you've been holding it together ever since. He met her eyes. Until that night, in that hotel room. For the first time in over a decade, I let go. The weight of his words settled between them. This wasn't just attraction. This was 2 people who'd been drowning in their own ways, finding air. "Why didn't you stop me?" she asked quietly. "When I kissed you. When you realized I thought you were... Why didn't you stop me?" "Because I didn't want to." He set his glass down. "Because when you looked at me, you didn't see the head of a conglomerate. You didn't see obligation or legacy. You just saw a man. And I've wanted to be just a man for so long, Naomi. Just me." Her chest tightened. "I'm sorry I ruined that. By leaving the money. By running." "You didn't ruin it." His voice was soft but firm. "You gave me the most honest night I've had in years. Even if you thought I was someone else, what we shared was real, wasn't it?" She couldn't lie. Not here. Not with the vulnerability in his eyes. "Yes." "Then that's enough." He reached out, his fingers brushing hers where they rested on the blanket. "I'm not asking for more than honesty, Naomi. I just need to know. Was it just the circumstances? The hotel, the mistake, the anonymity? Or was it me?" The question was so raw, so unguarded, that it stole her breath. "It was you," she whispered. "Even thinking you were what I thought you were, it was still you. The way you looked at me, the way you touched me, I've never felt like that before." His eyes darkened. "Like what?" "Wanted, not needed, not used, just wanted." He moved closer, not touching her, but close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. "I did want you. I still do. But I need you to understand something. I'm not that man in the hotel anymore. I can't be anonymous. I can't be a fantasy you walk away from when morning comes. If we do this, if we explore whatever this is between us, it's real. It's complicated. It's messy. And I need to know you can handle that before we go any further." "I don't know if I can," she admitted. "I don't know if I'm strong enough for complicated." "Then we stop here." But he didn't move away. We finish dinner. We say goodbye. And in 3 weeks, you go home and I stay here and we pretend that night never happened. Is that what you want? No. His voice was rough. But I won't chase someone who doesn't want to be caught. The challenge hung between them. He was giving her an out, a clean break. All she had to do was take it. But when she looked at him, really looked at him, she saw the loneliness that mirrored her own, the exhaustion of holding everything together, the hunger for something real. "I don't want to pretend it didn't happen," she said quietly. "But I also don't know what to do with the fact that it did. Then let's figure it out. Together." He held out his hand, palm up. An offering, not a demand. 3 weeks, no promises beyond that. We see where this goes. And if it becomes too much, if it gets too complicated, we stop. But we give it a chance. She stared at his hand. This was the moment. The choice. She could walk away, go back to her safe, small life, or she could take his hand and risk everything for the possibility of something more. Slowly, she placed her hand in his. 3 weeks, she breathed. His fingers closed around hers, and the smile that spread across his face was devastating. 3 weeks. Then he pulled her closer and kissed her. It was different from the hotel room. Slower, more deliberate. A kiss that acknowledged what they were risking, what they were choosing. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Hajun rested his forehead against hers. "Tell me about your marriage," he said softly. "Not the ending. The middle. Tell me what he did that made you forget who you were." And so she did. In the fading light with the sound of waves in the background, she told him. About the erosion, the small cuts that bled her dry, the way she'd learned to make herself invisible. Hajun listened without interrupting. When she finished, his jaw was tight, his hand gripping hers almost painfully. "I'm sorry," he said finally. "I'm sorry that happened to you. It's over now." "Is it?" His eyes searched hers. "Because you're still making yourself small. Still apologizing for taking up space. Still convinced that wanting something makes you selfish." The truth of his words hit her like a slap. "I don't know how to be anything else," she whispered. "Then I'll remind you." He lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to her knuckles. "Every day for the next 3 weeks, I'll remind you that you're allowed to want things, that you're allowed to take up space, that you're allowed to be seen." Tears burned behind her eyes. "Why do you care?" "Because when you kissed me in that hotel room, you weren't small. You were bold. You were present. You were everything." His thumb stroked across the inside of her wrist. "And I want to meet that woman again. The one who walks into rooms and takes what she wants. I don't know if she exists outside that one night. Then we'll find her together." He kissed her again, and this time Naomi let herself fall completely. The following morning, Naomi woke in her villa alone but not lonely. Her phone had a text from Hajun. "Good morning. Did you sleep well?" She smiled despite herself and typed back, "Better than I have in years." His response came immediately. "Good. Coffee at the terrace at 9? I promise to behave." "Do you?" she typed. "No, but I'll try." She rolled her eyes but felt warmth spread through her chest. At breakfast, Freya was already at the table with Kang Dae when Naomi arrived. Aunt Min Seo and Uncle Dae Jung sat across from them, engaged in quiet conversation. "Mom, there you are." Freya waved her over. "We were just talking about doing a group hike tomorrow. Uncle Hajun was supposed to join us, but he..." "Oh, there he is." Hajun appeared, impeccably dressed in casual linen, and took the seat beside his aunt. His eyes found Naomi's immediately, and something hot passed between them before he schooled his expression into polite neutrality. "Good morning, everyone," he said smoothly. "Hajuna," Aunt Min Seo said, her voice carrying that particular tone of authority that came from years of family leadership. "You look well rested. The island air must agree with you." "It does, Aunt." He reached for the coffee pot. "I slept better last night than I have in months." Naomi felt heat creep up her neck and focused intently on her plate. "And you, Mrs. Thompson?" Aunt Mincio turned her attention to Naomi, her smile polite but her eyes assessing. "Are you finding the resort to your liking?" "Please call me Naomi. And yes, it's beautiful. Thank you." "Freya tells me you're recently divorced." It wasn't a question. "That must have been difficult." Naomi tensed. "It was necessary." "Of course." Aunt Mincio's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "Still, divorce is always unfortunate, especially when there are children involved. But I'm sure you did what you thought was best." The subtle judgment in her tone was unmistakable. Under the table, Naomi's hands clenched. "My mother did what was right," Freya said firmly, surprising everyone. "Her ex-husband was..." She caught herself. "It was the right decision." Aunt Mincio inclined her head gracefully. "I'm sure it was, dear. I only meant that these things are always complex. Family should be preserved when possible. Hajun's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Aunt Minseo believes very strongly in family duty, he said, his tone neutral but his eyes on Naomi. Even when that duty comes at a personal cost. Family is everything, Hajuna. You know this. Aunt Minseo turned to Kangdai. Your uncle sacrificed so much to raise you properly, to give you opportunities. That's what family does. Kangdai nodded uncomfortably, clearly not wanting to be part of this conversation. The rest of breakfast passed with strained small talk, but Naomi couldn't shake the feeling that Aunt Minseo was watching her, measuring her, finding her wanting. Over the next 2 days, Naomi and Hajun fell into a careful dance. They maintained appropriate distance in public, but when no one was looking, his hand would brush hers, or he'd lean in under the pretense of reaching for something, his breath warm against her ear as he whispered, "Meet me at the cove tonight." At night, they would find ways to disappear. The secluded beach, a hidden path through the gardens. Once, daringly, his villa after everyone had gone to sleep. "This is insane," Naomi whispered one night as they lay tangled on his couch, her dress half unbuttoned, his shirt discarded somewhere on the floor. "Anyone could—" "No one will." He kissed down her neck. Kangdae and Freya went to the night market. Aunt Minseo retires early. Uncle Daejung won't leave their villa without her. "You've thought this through." "I think about you all the time." His hand slid up her thigh. "About touching you, tasting you, making you forget why this is supposed to be wrong." "It is wrong." "Then why does it feel so right?" She didn't have an answer for that. So she pulled him down and kissed him instead. But they were getting careless. Freya almost caught them. It was late afternoon, and Naomi had slipped away to Hajun's villa. They were on his private terrace, hidden from view by tropical plants and the angle of the building. He had her pressed against the wall, one hand tangled in her hair, the other gripping her hip as he kissed her like he was starving for it. "Hajun," she gasped between kisses. "We should—" "Should what?" His mouth moved to her throat. "Should stop? Should go inside where I can take my time with you?" Someone might— "Uncle Hajun?" They sprang apart like they'd been electrocuted. Freya's voice was coming from inside the villa. She'd let herself in. Hajun and Naomi stared at each other, both breathing hard. Naomi's lipstick smeared, his hair disheveled. "Stay here," he whispered, then stepped into the villa, closing the terrace door behind him. Naomi pressed her back against the wall, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. "Freya," she heard Hajun say, his voice perfectly composed. "What can I do for you?" "Sorry to barge in. I was looking for Mom. Have you seen her?" "Not recently. Is something wrong?" "No, we were supposed to meet for lunch and she didn't show. It's not like her." Naomi's stomach dropped. She'd completely forgotten about lunch. "I'm sure she's fine," Hajun said. "Perhaps she fell asleep? The heat can be exhausting." "Yeah, maybe. If you see her, can you tell her I'm looking for her?" "Of course." Naomi heard footsteps, then the sound of the front door closing. She waited, barely breathing until Hajun opened the terrace door. "She's gone," he said. Naomi's legs felt weak. "That was too close." "I know. We need to be more careful." "I know that too." He pulled her close. "But I'm not ready to stop." "Neither am I." And that terrified her more than anything. Aunt Minseo was not a fool. She'd raised 2 boys after her brother's death. She'd navigated the cutthroat world of Korean family business. She knew how to read people. And she'd been reading Hajun and Naomi very carefully. The way they avoided looking at each other at meals, too deliberately. The way they both disappeared for long stretches. The way Naomi's cheeks flushed when Hajun's name was mentioned. And most tellingly, the way Hajun looked at this woman when he thought no one was watching. Like she was air and he'd been drowning. She'd never seen him look at anyone like that. Not even... No. She wouldn't think about that. About the arrangement that had been made. About what was expected. But if Hajun was developing feelings for Freya's mother, of all people, this needed to be addressed before it became a problem. That afternoon, she found Uncle Dae-jung in their villa. "We need to call Jiwoo," she said without preamble. Her husband looked up from his book. "Why?" "Because Hajun is being foolish. And it's time to remind him of his responsibilities." The second close call happened when Freya found Naomi's bracelet. Naomi had been in such a hurry to leave Hajun's villa the night before that she'd forgotten to put it back on. She only realized it was missing the next morning. She was having breakfast with Freya when her daughter pulled something from her pocket. "Mom, is this yours?" Freya held up the delicate silver bracelet. "I found it in Uncle Hajun's villa. I was helping him look for his phone charger and it was on his nightstand." Naomi's blood turned to ice. Yes, that's mine. I must have..." Her mind raced. "I must have dropped it yesterday when I stopped by to ask him about recommendations for the spa. Thank you for finding it." Freya's eyes narrowed slightly. "You went to his villa?" "Just briefly. To ask about the spa." The lie felt thick in her throat. "You know how I am. I take off jewelry when I'm nervous. I must have set it down and forgotten it." "Huh." Freya handed her the bracelet. "It was right on his nightstand, though. Why would you..." "I probably set it down while we were talking. You know how I fidget." Freya studied her mother's face for a long moment. "Yeah, I guess." But Naomi could see the wheels turning in her daughter's head. The small seed of suspicion taking root. Despite the close calls, or perhaps because of them, Naomi and Hajun grew more reckless. One afternoon, Naomi was reading by the pool when Hajun appeared with 2 iced coffees. "Freya and Kangdae went snorkeling," he said, sitting on the lounge chair beside hers. "We have 2 hours." "2 hours for what?" "This." He leaned in and kissed her. Right there in broad daylight, hidden only by the angle of the chairs and the strategic placement of palm trees. Naomi gasped against his mouth but didn't pull away. When they finally broke apart, she was breathless. "Someone could see," she hissed. "Then don't make a sound." His hand slid to the small of her back, pulling her closer. "Can you do that, Yobo? Can you stay quiet while I touch you?" The Korean word sent shivers down her spine. "What does that mean?" "You keep calling me that." "It means you're mine." His lips brushed her ear. "Even if you don't know it yet." "I'm not." "You are." His hand moved to her thigh, hidden by the towel across her lap. "Tell me to stop." She should. Someone could walk by. Freya could come back early. This was reckless and stupid and... "Don't stop," she whispered. His smile against her neck was wicked. "Good girl." What followed was 10 minutes of exquisite torment, his hand moving slowly, deliberately under the cover of the towel. His mouth at her ear, whispering things in Korean she didn't understand but felt in every nerve ending. She bit her lips so hard she tasted copper, trying not to make a sound as he brought her right to the edge. Then he stopped. "Hajun," she gasped. "Not here." He pulled his hand away, leaving her trembling and furious. "Tonight. My villa. Midnight. I can't..." "You can." He stood, adjusting his shirt like nothing had happened. "Freya's a deep sleeper. You told me that yourself." Then he walked away, leaving her aching and desperate and absolutely furious with how much she wanted him. What neither of them noticed was Aunt Minseo on the upper terrace, partially hidden by a decorative screen, watching the entire exchange. Her expression was unreadable as she set down her teacup. It was time to act. That night, Naomi stood outside Hajun's villa at 11:58 p.m., her heart hammering in her chest. This was insane. If anyone saw her, if Freya woke up and checked her room, if... The door opened before she could knock. Hajun stood there barefoot, wearing only dark pants that hung low on his hips. His chest was bare, and the look in his eyes was pure hunger. "You came," he said. "I shouldn't be here." "But you are." He reached out, his fingers wrapping around her wrist, and pulled her inside. The door closed behind her with a definitive click. "I've been thinking about you all day," he murmured, backing her against the wall. "About that hotel room, about the way you tasted, about the sounds you made when I touched you." "Hajun, tell me to stop." His mouth was at her throat, his hands on her hips. "Tell me you don't want this, and I'll let you walk away right now." She couldn't, because she did want this. Desperately. Dangerously. "I want you," she whispered. "God help me, I want you." "Then take me." And she did. What happened in that villa was nothing like the tender exploration of the hotel room. This was hunger, need, desperation. He worshipped her body like it was something holy, whispering words in Korean between kisses. "Aramdaweo, you're so beautiful. Negoya, mine." When he finally moved inside her, she bit down on his shoulder to keep from crying out. "Look at me," he demanded, his voice rough. "I want to see you. I want to watch you fall apart." She met his eyes, and what she saw there terrified her. This wasn't just desire. This was possession. Obsession. This was a man who decided she was his. And nothing would change his mind. "Say it," he commanded, his movements becoming harder, more desperate. "Say you're mine." "I can't." "Say it, Naomi." "I'm yours," she gasped, and the moment the words left her mouth, she knew they were true. They came apart together, clinging to each other like drowning people finding shore. Afterward, as they lay tangled in his sheets, Hajun traced patterns on her bare skin. "I need to tell you something," he said quietly. She tensed. "What?" "My aunt has been watching us. She knows something is happening." Naomi's blood ran cold. "How do you know?" "Because she called me this morning, asked pointed questions about you, about whether I was being foolish." His jaw tightened. "She's protective, of me, of the family, of our reputation." "What did you tell her?" "Nothing. But she's not stupid, Naomi. She'll figure it out if she hasn't already." Naomi sat up, pulling the sheet around herself. "Then we need to stop, before this gets out of control." "It's already out of control." He pulled her back down. "And I don't care." "You should care. You have a family, a company, a reputation. And none of it means anything without this." He cupped her face. "Without you." The words should have filled her with joy. Instead, they filled her with dread. Because she could feel the weight of reality pressing down on them. And she didn't know if what they had was strong enough to survive it. The next day, Naomi noticed Aunt Minseo watching her more carefully at breakfast. Her smiles were polite but cold. Her questions pointed. "Naomi C., you seem tired. Are you sleeping well?" "Naomi C., I noticed you missed lunch with Freya yesterday. I hope everything is all right?" "Naomi C., how long are you planning to stay at the resort?" Each question felt like a trap. That afternoon, Freya pulled her aside. "Mom, is something going on?" Naomi's heart stopped. What do you mean? I don't know. You just seem different. And you and Uncle Hajun. She paused. Never mind. I'm probably imagining things. What about Uncle Hajun? Naomi tried to keep her voice casual. It's just, you're both acting weird. And I found your bracelet in his villa. And you said you were there for spa recommendations, but then I asked the spa and they said you never came and... She stopped. I'm overthinking this, right? Naomi's mouth went dry. I must have forgotten to go. I've been forgetful lately. Right. But Freya didn't look convinced. That night, Naomi didn't go to Hajun's villa. She stayed in her room, her phone lighting up with his messages. Where are you? Naomi, answer me. Talk to me. What's wrong? She finally typed back. We're being too careless. We need to slow down. His response was immediate. Come to my villa. We'll talk. No, not tonight. There was a long pause, then. Are you ending this? Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. Was she? I don't know, she typed. I just need time to think. She turned off her phone and stared at the ceiling, feeling the walls closing in. The next morning, Naomi was walking back from the beach when a voice stopped her. Naomi C. A word? She turned to find Aunt Minseo sitting on a bench in one of the garden paths. It was positioned perfectly. Private enough for a confidential conversation, but public enough to be seen if anyone looked. Of course. Naomi sat, her stomach nodding. For a moment, Aunt Minseo said nothing. Then she spoke, her voice soft but laced with steel. I raised Hajun after his father died. Did you know that? He mentioned it. He was 13. His brother was 16. Their father's death nearly destroyed the company. There were vultures circling, waiting for us to fail. But Hajun... Her voice softened with something that might have been pride. He was so strong, so determined. He gave up his childhood to save the family legacy. Naomi didn't know what to say. He's never allowed himself to want anything just for himself. Aunt Minseo continued. Everything he does is for the family, for Kang Dae, for the company. She turned to look at Naomi directly. Until now. Naomi's throat tightened. I've been watching you, Aunt Minseo said. The way he looks at you, the way you look at him, I know what's happening between you. Nothing is. Don't insult my intelligence. The steel returned to her voice. You're having an affair with your daughter's boyfriend's uncle. Do you have any idea how selfish that is? The word hit like a slap. Selfish. Just like her ex-husband used to say. Freya came here to celebrate her relationship. Aunt Minseo continued, to show you her happiness. And you're using this trip to have a sordid affair. What kind of mother does that? You don't understand. I understand perfectly. Aunt Minseo's eyes were hard. You're a middle-aged divorced woman having a crisis. And you've latched onto a man who's lonely and vulnerable. A man who has responsibilities you clearly don't care about. Tears burned behind Naomi's eyes. But she refused to let them fall. Hajun needs someone appropriate, Aunt Minseo said. Someone who understands his world. Someone who can help him, not distract him. You're not that person. That's not your decision to make. Perhaps not. But ask yourself, what future do you think this has? Do you think Freya will be happy when she finds out? Do you think she'll forgive you for this? Aunt Minseo stood. You're not just risking your own relationship with your daughter. You're risking her relationship with Kang Dae. You're being selfish, Naomi C. Reckless. And you're going to destroy everything. Your daughter's happiness, Hajun's reputation, this family's peace. For what? A vacation fling? She walked away, leaving Naomi sitting there, the words echoing in her head. Selfish. reckless, destroying everything. Maybe she was right. Maybe Naomi was being the same selfish person her ex-husband had always said she was. That evening, when Hajun texted her, she didn't respond. She spent the night staring at the ceiling, Aunt Minceo's words playing on repeat. Selfish, reckless, destroying everything. The words wouldn't stop. But before we find out what happens next, I need to ask you something. Do you think Naomi should walk away? Protect her relationship with Freya and end things with Hajun before it's too late? Or should she fight for what makes her happy, even if it means risking everything? Drop your answer in the comments. Team walk away, or team fight for it. And if you're as hooked on this story as I think you are, hit that like button and subscribe. Because what's about to happen next? You're not ready for it? Trust me. Now, let's continue. The next morning, everything changed. Naomi was having breakfast with Freya when a commotion at the entrance made everyone turn. A woman had arrived, stunning, polished, wearing designer clothes that probably cost more than Naomi's entire wardrobe. She was younger than Naomi, probably early 30s, with the kind of effortless elegance that came from a lifetime of privilege. "Hajun," she called out, her voice bright. "Surprise!" Hajun had been walking to the table. He froze, his expression shifting from shock to something that might have been dread. "Jiwoo," he said. "What are you doing here?" The woman, Jiwoo, crossed to him and wrapped her arms around him in an embrace that was just a little too familiar. "Your aunt called me. She said you've been working too hard and needed company." She pulled back, beaming. "So I thought, why not finally take that vacation together? The one we've been planning forever?" Aunt Mincio appeared, her smile satisfied. "Jiwoo-si, it's so good to see you. Come sit with us." Naomi watched, her stomach dropping, as Jiwoo linked her arm through Hajun's and pulled him toward the table. "Everyone, this is Yoon Jiwoo," Aunt Mincio announced, Hajun's fiancé. The word hit Naomi like a punch to the gut. Fiancé. Freya's eyes widened. "Uncle Hajun, you're engaged? Why didn't you tell us?" "It's complicated," Hajun said, his eyes finding Naomi's across the table. The look in them was desperate, pleading. "It's not complicated at all," Jiwoo said with a laugh, sitting beside him and keeping her hand on his arm. "We've been engaged for 3 years. Hajun just keeps postponing the wedding because he's married to his work." She smiled at him adoringly. "But I think it's time we finally set a date, don't you?" Naomi couldn't breathe, couldn't move, couldn't look away from the sight of this beautiful woman touching Hajun so casually, so possessively. "Naomi-si," Aunt Minseo said sweetly, "you should congratulate them. After all, you understand the importance of commitment, don't you? Or perhaps not, given your recent divorce." The barb landed exactly as intended. Naomi stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "Excuse me, I'm not feeling well." She walked away before anyone could respond, before Hajun could say whatever desperate thing was written on his face. Behind her, she heard Jiwoo's bright voice. "Is she all right? Did I say something wrong?" "Don't worry about it," Aunt Minseo said smoothly. "Now, tell us all about your trip." Naomi made it to her villa before the tears came. Fiancé, 3 years, and he'd never mentioned it. Not once. Not during their night in the hotel. Not during their dinner at the Cove. Not during any of the stolen moments where he'd whispered that she was his. She'd been such a fool. Naomi stayed in her villa for the rest of the day, ignoring the knocks on her door, the texts that kept lighting up her phone. Freya came by twice. "Mom, are you okay? Do you need anything?" "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just a headache. I'll be better tomorrow." The lies were getting easier. Hajun's messages were more desperate. Naomi, please, let me explain. It's not what you think. Jiwoo and I aren't together. Not really. It's complicated. Please talk to me. She deleted them all without responding. By evening, there was a knock she couldn't ignore. Firm, insistent, familiar. Naomi, open the door. Hajun's voice. Go away. Not until we talk. There's nothing to talk about. You're engaged. You should be with your fiancé. Silence. Then, I'm going to stand here until you open this door. I don't care if it takes all night. She knew he meant it. Knew he was stubborn enough to do exactly that. And if someone saw him standing outside her door, she opened it. He looked wrecked. His hair was disheveled like he'd been running his hands through it. His eyes were red-rimmed. He was still wearing the same clothes from breakfast. 5 minutes, she said coldly. Then you leave. He stepped inside and she closed the door behind him. Jiwoo and I are not together, he said immediately. We haven't been for years. The engagement was arranged by our families when we were younger. A business alliance. I've been trying to end it for the past 3 years. 3 years, Naomi repeated. And in all our conversations, all our stolen moments, you never thought to mention you had a fiancé? Because she's not what? Not real? Not relevant? Naomi's voice rose. You had me thinking. She stopped, wrapping her arms around herself. You made me believe I was special, that what we had meant something. But I'm just another complication, aren't I? Another mess you have to clean up. That's not true. Then why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't think it mattered. He ran his hands through his hair. Jiwoo and I have an understanding. We're not in love. We barely even speak outside of family functions. The engagement is a formality, a business arrangement that I've been trying to dissolve for years. And yet she's here, calling herself your fiancé, touching you like she has every right to. Because my aunt called her, to sabotage this, to sabotage us. He took a step closer. She confronted you, didn't she? Said things to make you doubt this. Naomi looked away. She said I was selfish, that I was destroying my daughter's happiness, that I was ruining everything for a vacation fling. And you believed her. Shouldn't I? Naomi's voice broke. Look at what we're doing, Hajun. I'm sneaking around behind my daughter's back. You have a fiancé you supposedly don't want but can't seem to get rid of. Your aunt is right. This is a mess. And I'm the fool who thought it could be anything else. You're not a fool. He crossed to her, gripping her shoulders. And you're not selfish for wanting something for yourself, for wanting me. But at what cost? Tears spilled down her cheeks. Freya is already suspicious. Your aunt hates me. And now there's Jiwoo, who apparently has been waiting 3 years for you to marry her. I'm not marrying her. His voice was firm. I will never marry her. I'm going to end this engagement, Naomi. I've been planning to do it for years, and now I have a reason that matters more than business. Don't. She pulled away from him. Don't make me the reason you blow up your life. I can't be responsible for that. You're not responsible. I'm making this choice. For me. For us. There is no us. The words came out harsher than she intended. There's a vacation affair that got out of hand. There's stolen moments and secrets and lies. But there's no us, Hajun. Not in the real world. He flinched like she'd slapped him. Is that really what you think this is? She wanted to say no. Wanted to tell him that these past days had been the most alive she'd felt in decades. But Aunt Minseo's words kept echoing. Selfish, reckless, destroying everything. I think you should go back to your fiancé, she said quietly, and I need to focus on my daughter. That's why I'm here. Not for this. Naomi, please leave. For a moment, she thought he wouldn't. Thought he'd argue, push back, refuse to let her run again. But instead, he nodded slowly. Okay, if that's what you want. It is. He walked to the door, then paused. For what it's worth, that night in the hotel, I meant every word I said, every touch. You weren't a mistake, Naomi. You were the most real thing that's happened to me in years. Then he was gone. Naomi sank to the floor and let herself break. The next morning, Naomi forced herself to join everyone for breakfast. She couldn't hide forever. Jiwoo was already there, sitting close to Hajun, her hand resting possessively on his arm as she chatted brightly with Freya and Kangdae. Oh, Naomi, see. Jiwoo's smile was warm, genuine. I hope you're feeling better. Hajun was so worried about you yesterday. I'm fine, thank you. Naomi took a seat as far from Hajun as possible. She couldn't look at him, couldn't bear to see whatever expression was on his face. Jiwoo was just telling us about the wedding plans, Freya said, clearly excited. It sounds incredible. Oh, well, we haven't finalized anything yet, Jiwoo laughed. Hajun keeps saying he's too busy, but I think this vacation is the perfect time to nail down some details, don't you? She squeezed his arm affectionately. Hajun's jaw was tight. Jiwoo, I told you... I know. Work comes first. She turned to the table with an exaggerated sigh. He's impossible, but that's why I love him. So dedicated. Love. The word twisted like a knife in Naomi's chest. Aunt Minseo suggested we all take a boat tour today, Uncle Daijung said. See the neighboring islands. It would be a good opportunity for everyone to spend time together. That sounds wonderful, Jiwoo beamed. Hajun, you'll come, won't you? I have work. You always have work. Jiwoo pouted playfully. One day. Just one day where you put me first. The manipulation was subtle but effective. Everyone at the table was now looking at Hajun expectantly. Fine, he said tightly. One day. Jiwoo clapped her hands together. Perfect, this'll be so fun. Naomi stood abruptly. I'm sorry, I'm not feeling well again. I think I'll skip the boat tour. Mom, Freya started. I'm fine, sweetheart. You go. Have fun. She walked away before anyone could argue. Behind her, she heard Aunt Minseo's satisfied voice. Such a shame she's not feeling well, but perhaps it's for the best. Family time, you know? The message was clear. Naomi wasn't family. She didn't belong. Naomi spent the day on her villa's private terrace, trying to read, trying not to think about Hajun on a boat with Jiwoo. But her imagination was cruel. She pictured Jiwoo laughing at something he said, pictured her leaning against him as the boat rocked, pictured him smiling at her, that same smile he'd given Naomi. By the time evening came, she was in agony. She ventured out to the resort's restaurant for dinner, hoping to eat quickly and escape back to her room. Instead, she saw them. Hajun and Jiwoo at a table on the terrace, the sunset painting everything in shades of gold. Jiwoo was leaning across the table, saying something that made Hajun shake his head. She laughed and reached for his hand. He didn't pull away. Naomi's breath caught. She turned to leave, but it was too late. Naomi, see. Jiwoo waved her over. Please join us. There's plenty of room. It would be rude to refuse. Suspicious. So Naomi forced a smile and walked over. I don't want to intrude. Nonsense. Jiwoo gestured to the empty chair. Besides, I've been wanting to get to know you better. Freya speaks so highly of you. Naomi sat, hyper-aware of Hajun across the table. His expression was carefully neutral, but his hands were clenched on the table. "So," Jiwoo said brightly, "Freya mentioned you're recently divorced. That must have been difficult." "It was necessary," Naomi said, echoing her earlier words to Aunt Minseo. "Still, divorce is always sad, especially after so many years together." Jiwoo reached over and squeezed Hajun's hand. "That's why I'm so grateful Hajun and I found each other young. We've grown together, you know? We understand each other." Hajun's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. "How did you two meet?" Naomi heard herself ask, even though she didn't want to know. "Our fathers arranged it," Jiwoo said. "Very traditional, but we were lucky. We actually got along. And over the years," she smiled at Hajun, "well, I think we've built something real, haven't we?" "Jiwoo," Hajun started. I know. You hate when I get sentimental." She turned back to Naomi. "He's very private about his feelings, but I can tell when he cares. It's in the little things." Each word was a fresh cut. Naomi wanted to stand up, to walk away, but she was trapped by politeness, by the need to not reveal how much this was destroying her. "Excuse me," Hajun said abruptly. "I need to make a call." He stood and walked away, leaving Naomi alone with Jiwoo. Jiwoo's smile dimmed slightly. He's been distant lately, ever since he arrived at the island. She studied Naomi's face. "You haven't noticed anything off about him, have you? You've spent time with him." "Not really," Naomi lied. "We've barely spoken." Jiwoo didn't look convinced. "Well, I'm sure it's just work stress. It always is." She brightened again. "Aunt Minseo thinks once we're married, he'll finally relax, have something stable to come home to." The casual way she talked about their future, their marriage, their life together, made Naomi want to scream. "I should go," Naomi said, standing. "I'm still not feeling well." "Of course. Feel better, Naomi, see?" As Naomi walked away, she passed Hajun in the hallway. He grabbed her arm. "Naomi, don't." She pulled away. "Your fiancé is waiting for you." "She's not." "She thinks she is. She talks about marrying you like it's inevitable, like you're hers." Naomi's voice broke. And maybe she's right. Maybe I'm the one who's been living in a fantasy. "You're not." "I can't do this." Naomi shook her head. "I can't watch you with her and pretend it doesn't hurt. I can't keep lying to my daughter. I can't." She took a shaky breath. "We're done, Hajun. Whatever this was, it's over." She walked away before he could respond, before she could see the devastation on his face. Behind her, she heard him punch the wall. The next day was torture. Aunt Minseo had organized a family lunch on the beach. Everyone was expected to attend. Naomi considered faking illness again, but Freya had already started asking questions. So she went, determined to get through it without breaking. Jiwoo was in her element. Charming, attentive, perfectly gracious. She had Freya and Kangdae laughing at her stories. She deferred to Aunt Minseo with just the right amount of respect. She touched Hajun constantly. His arm, his shoulder, his hand. Casual touches that screamed possession. And Hajun let her. Oh, he was stiff. Uncomfortable. But he didn't pull away. Didn't correct her when she talked about their future. Didn't contradict her when she told a story about when we're married. Naomi felt like she was dying by inches. "Naomi, see? You're quiet today," Aunt Minseo observed. "Still not feeling well?" "Just tired. You should rest more. Take care of yourself." The words were kind, but the look in Aunt Minseo's eyes was victorious. She'd won, and they both knew it. After lunch, as everyone was dispersing, Ji-woo called out, "Ha-jun, let's take a walk on the beach. Just the two of us. It's been ages since we had alone time." Ha-jun's eyes found Naomi's across the group. The look in them was desperate, pleading. She looked away. "Sure," he said flatly. "Why not?" Naomi watched them walk away, Ji-woo's hand tucked into the crook of his arm, her head tilted up toward him as she talked animatedly. "Mom?" Naomi turned to find Freya watching her with concerned eyes. "Are you sure you're okay?" "I'm fine." "You don't seem fine. You seem—" Freya paused. "Sad." "Just tired." "Sweetheart." Naomi forced a smile. Nothing a good nap won't fix. But as she walked back to her villa, she knew sleep wouldn't fix this. Nothing would. That night, Naomi lay in bed, staring at the ceiling when her phone buzzed. "Ha-jun, I can't do this anymore." She stared at the message, her heart hammering. Another message. "Meet me. Please, I need to see you." She shouldn't respond. Should delete the message. Should stay strong. But her fingers were already typing. "Where?" "The Cove. Our place. Please, Naomi." She should say no. Should end this cleanly. Instead, she found herself getting dressed, slipping out of her villa in the darkness, making her way down the familiar path to the eastern dock. The boat was already there, engine idling. Ha-jun stood beside it, and even in the moonlight she could see the tension in his body. "You came," he said. "I shouldn't have." "But you did." He helped her into the boat. "That means something." They rowed in silence to the cove. When they arrived, Ha-jun didn't bother with pleasantries. The moment they were on the sand, he turned to her. "I'm ending it," he said. "The engagement. Tomorrow. I'm telling Ji-woo and my aunt that it's over." Naomi's breath caught. "You can't—" "I can. I should have done it years ago." He moved closer. "Watching you these past 2 days, seeing you in pain, knowing I caused it. I can't, Naomi. I can't keep pretending. I can't keep letting my aunt manipulate me. And I sure as hell can't keep letting Ji-woo touch me when the only person I want touching me is you. Your aunt will never accept this. Never accept me. I don't care. You should care. She's your family. The company means nothing without you." He gripped her shoulders. "Don't you understand? I spent 12 years building a life I didn't want. 12 years doing what was expected. And then you walked into that hotel room and reminded me what it felt like to want something for myself. I'm not worth losing everything for. You're worth everything." He cupped her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. "You're worth my aunt's disapproval. Worth the business complications. Worth whatever fallout comes from this. Because for the first time in my life, I'm not just surviving. I'm living. And that's because of you." Tears streamed down her face. "What about Freya? What happens when she finds out and hates me for this?" "Freya loves you. She'll understand." "You don't know that. Then we'll deal with it. Together." His thumb brushed away her tears. "But I'm not giving you up, Naomi. I'm not letting my aunt scare you away. And I'm sure as hell not marrying Ji-woo when the only woman I want is standing in front of me. This is insane. I know. We're going to ruin everything. Maybe." He pressed his forehead to hers. "But I'd rather have one real moment with you than a lifetime of pretending with someone else." She should push him away. Should be the responsible one. Should think about the consequences. Instead, she kissed him. It was desperate, hungry, all the emotion of the past 2 days pouring into it. She kissed him like she was drowning and he was air. Like if she let go, she'd cease to exist. He responded with equal desperation. his hands tangling in her hair, pulling her closer, closer, never close enough. "I'm sorry," he gasped between kisses. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you about Jiwoo. I'm sorry I let my aunt get to you. I'm sorry for every second you spent thinking you meant nothing to me. Stop apologizing." She pulled at his shirt. "Just, I need—" "I know." He backed her toward the blanket he'd laid out, the same one from their first night here. "Tell me what you need." "You. Just you." What happened next was raw, desperate, almost violent in its intensity. This wasn't the gentle exploration of the hotel room or even the controlled passion of his villa. This was two people who'd been torn apart trying to fuse themselves back together. He pushed her dress up, she tore at his pants, and then he was inside her, and she was crying, and he was whispering words in Korean, words she didn't understand but felt in every cell of her body. "Nagoya," he growled against her neck. "Mine. You're mine, Naomi. Say it." "I'm yours," she sobbed. "I'm yours, I'm yours, I'm yours. No one else." His movements were hard, desperate, almost punishing. "Not Jiwoo, not anyone. You're the only one I want, the only one I'll ever want. Prove it." And he did. Over and over until they were both shaking, until she'd screamed his name so many times it was the only word she remembered, until he'd marked every inch of her skin with his mouth and hands and body. When they finally collapsed together, tangled and breathless, she felt the wetness on her face and realized she was still crying. "Hey," he said softly, brushing hair from her face. "Talk to me." "I'm scared," she admitted. "I'm so scared, Hajun. What if this falls apart? What if your aunt is right and I'm just being selfish? What if I lose Freya over this? Then we'll deal with it." He pulled her closer. "But we'll deal with it together. I'm not letting you face this alone. You're asking me to be brave enough for both of us." "No, I'm asking you to trust me." He tilted her face up. "Trust that what we have is worth fighting for. Trust that I'm not going to disappear when things get hard. Trust that you deserve to be happy, even if it's complicated." She wanted to. God, she wanted to. "What happens tomorrow?" she whispered. "Tomorrow I tell Jiwoo the engagement is over. I tell my aunt that I'm making my own choices. And then—" He kissed her softly. "Then I spend the rest of this vacation showing you exactly what you mean to me. No hiding, no sneaking around, just us. Freya, we'll figure it out, and we'll talk to her. Together. As soon as she asks." The plan was terrifying, reckless. Everything that could go wrong flashed through Naomi's mind. But when she looked at Hajun, really looked at him, she saw something she recognized. The same desperate hope she felt. The same terrified determination. "Okay," she breathed. "Okay, we do this." His smile was blinding. "We do this." He kissed her again, softer this time, a promise sealed. They made love twice more that night. Slower, sweeter, like they were memorizing each other for whatever battles lay ahead. As the sun began to rise, Hajun wrapped her in his shirt and held her as they watched the sky turn pink and gold. "No regrets?" he asked softly. She thought about all the ways this could fall apart, all the pain that might be waiting. Then she thought about the hotel room, about his hands on her skin, about the way he looked at her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. "No regrets?" she said. It was a lie and a truth all at once. Because while she didn't regret him, she was terrified of what came next. They returned to the resort just after dawn, disheveled and exhausted. Hajun walked her to her villa, kissed her once more at the door, then headed toward his own. He had a conversation to have. Several, actually. But before he could reach his villa, a voice stopped him. Hajuna. Aunt Minseo stood on the path, fully dressed despite the early hour. Her expression was unreadable. Where have you been? That's none of your concern. Everything you do is my concern. I raised you. I saved this family. Her voice was steel. And I will not let you destroy everything we've built for some middle-aged divorced woman. Hajun's jaw tightened. Watch your tone when you speak about her. Or what? You'll choose her over your family? Over your responsibilities? Aunt Minseo stepped closer. Jiwoo is perfect for you. She understands your world. She can help you. I don't want her help. I don't want her. And I'm ending the engagement today. Aunt Minseo's eyes flashed. You will do no such thing. That engagement represents a critical business alliance that I never agreed to. Hajun's voice was cold. You and Jiwoo's father arranged it. You've been pushing it for years. But I'm done, Aunt. I'm done living my life for the company, for the family legacy. I'm done sacrificing my happiness for everyone else's expectations. This is about that woman. Her name is Naomi. And yes, this is about her. But it's also about me finally choosing what I want instead of what's expected. She'll never fit into your world, Hajun. She doesn't understand. She understands me. He met his aunt's eyes. For the first time in 12 years, someone sees me. Not the CEO, not the family patriarch. Just me. And I'm not giving that up. Aunt Minseo's expression hardened. If you do this, there will be consequences. The board will question your judgment. Jiwoo's father will pull his support. You could lose everything. Then I lose everything. But at least I'll have something real. He walked past her, leaving his aunt standing on the path, her carefully constructed plans crumbling around her. Hajun found Jiwoo in the villa's breakfast room, already immaculately dressed, scrolling through her phone. We need to talk, he said without preamble. She looked up, her smile bright. Good morning to you too. Did you sleep well? You left so early. I'm ending the engagement. The smile froze on her face. What? The engagement. It's over. It should have ended years ago, but I let myself be convinced to wait. I'm not waiting anymore. Jiwoo set down her phone slowly. Is this about her? That woman? Freya's mother? This is about me finally being honest. We don't love each other, Jiwoo. We never have. This arrangement was never about us. It was about business, about our families. But I'm done living my life for other people's convenience. I see. Her voice was carefully controlled. And does she know? This woman you're throwing everything away for? Does she know what it will cost you to choose her? It's not costing me anything that matters. Your reputation will suffer. Your aunt will fight you. The board will question your judgment. Jiwoo stood, her composure cracking. And for what? A divorced woman with baggage? A woman who's so insecure she ran away from you the moment things got complicated? Don't. I've been patient, Hajun. I've waited 3 years for you to be ready. I've made excuses to my family, to my friends, every time you postponed the wedding. I've stood by you even when it was humiliating. Her voice rose. And you're throwing me away for someone you've known for 2 weeks? I'm not throwing you away. I'm being honest for the first time. His voice softened. You deserve someone who loves you, Jiwoo. Really loves you. And that's not me. It never was. She stared at him for a long moment, then laughed bitterly. You're right. It never was. She grabbed her phone and purse. I hope she's worth it, Hajun. I really do. Because you're about to find out just how expensive your honesty is. She walked out, leaving him standing alone. It should have felt like relief. Instead, it felt like the first domino falling. By lunchtime, everyone knew. Ji-woo had left the island. Aunt Min-seo was in her villa, furiously making phone calls. And Freya was standing in front of Naomi's villa, her face a mask of confusion. "Mom, what's going on?" Ji-woo just left. She said Uncle Ha-jun ended their engagement, and Kang-dae said his aunt is losing her mind and keeps mentioning your name. Naomi's stomach dropped. This was it. The moment she'd been dreading. "Freya, Mom, please tell me you didn't..." Freya's eyes widened as understanding dawned. "Oh my God, you and Uncle Ha-jun?" "Sweetheart, let me explain. How long..." Freya's voice was sharp. "How long has this been going on?" "Since before we came here. I didn't know who he was at first. But you knew when we got here. You knew and you kept it secret." Freya's face cycled through emotions. Shock, hurt, anger. "You've been sneaking around with my boyfriend's uncle while I've been here celebrating my relationship?" "It's not like that." "Then what is it like?" Freya's voice rose. "Explain it to me, Mom. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've been lying to me for 2 weeks while having an affair that just blew up Kang-dae's family. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. But it did." Freya's hands were shaking. "His aunt is calling Kang-dae's grandfather. There's talk about family disgrace, and it's all because you couldn't..." She stopped, taking a breath. "I need time to process this. Freya, please." "I need space, Mom. I'm going to stay with Kang-dae tonight. Just give me time." She walked away, leaving Naomi standing in the doorway, her worst fear realized. She'd lost her daughter. That evening, Ha-jun found Naomi sitting on her villa's terrace, staring at nothing. "I heard about Freya," he said softly. "She hates me." "She doesn't hate you. She's hurt. Confused. But she doesn't hate you." "How do you know?" Naomi's voice was hollow. "You haven't seen the way she looked at me. Like I was a stranger. Like I'd betrayed her. Give her time. And if time doesn't fix this? What if I've destroyed my relationship with my daughter for what? A vacation romance? Is that still what you think this is?" His voice was quiet, dangerous. "After everything? I don't know what to think anymore." She finally looked at him. "Your aunt is right, isn't she? I'm selfish. I'm destroying everything." "Stop." He knelt in front of her. "Stop letting her words define you. Stop letting your fear make you small." "My daughter won't talk to me." "Because she needs time to process. Not because you did something unforgivable." He took her hands. "Naomi, listen to me. We knew this would be hard. We knew there would be fallout. But we also knew it was worth it. Don't let one bad day make you forget why we're doing this." "Why are we doing this?" Her voice broke. "Tell me, because right now I can't remember." He stood, pulling her up with him, and kissed her. Not gentle, not sweet. A kiss that demanded she remember. Remember the hotel room. Remember the cove. Remember every stolen moment that made her feel alive. When he pulled back, they were both breathing hard. "That's why," he said. "Because when I kiss you, I remember what it feels like to be more than my responsibilities. Because when you look at me, I'm not the head of a company or a family patriarch. I'm just a man. And for the first time in 12 years, that's enough. But Freya will come around because she loves you and because ultimately she wants you to be happy." He cupped her face. "Have a little faith, Yobo. In me. In us. In the fact that we're strong enough to survive this." She wanted to believe him. Wanted to trust that everything would work out. But as the sun set over the island, painting everything in shades of orange and gold, she couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come. Naomi didn't sleep. She lay in bed, replaying the look on Freya's face over and over. The hurt, the betrayal, the disappointment. By morning, her phone had multiple missed calls from Hajun, but no messages from Freya. She forced herself to get up, to shower, to pretend she was a functional human being. But when she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized the woman staring back. Her eyes were hollow. Her skin was pale. She looked exactly like what she was. Someone who'd gambled everything and lost. There was a knock at the door. For a moment, hope flared. Maybe it was Freya. Maybe she'd come back to talk, to listen, to forgive. But when Naomi opened the door, it was Hajun. "You look terrible," he said without preamble. "Thank you. That's exactly what I needed to hear." He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "Have you eaten?" "I'm not hungry." "Have you slept?" "No." He sighed, pulling her into his arms. She resisted for a moment, then collapsed against him, letting him hold her weight. "She won't talk to me," Naomi whispered into his chest. "I've called. I've texted. Nothing. She's with Kang Dae. He says she's processing. She needs time." "What if time isn't enough?" "Then we give her more time." He pulled back to look at her. "But Naomi, you can't fall apart. Not now. We're in the middle of the storm. You have to hold on." "I don't know if I can." "Yes, you can." His voice was firm. "You survived 22 years of a marriage that tried to erase you. You survived divorce. You survived walking away from me once. You're stronger than you think." "I don't feel strong." "I know, but you are." He kissed her forehead. "And I'm not going anywhere. No matter what happens, no matter what my aunt does or what your daughter says or how hard this gets, I'm here." She wanted to believe him, but right now she couldn't believe in anything. That afternoon, there was another knock. This time, it was Kang Dae. "Mrs. Thompson, Naomi, can I come in?" She stepped aside and he entered, looking uncomfortable but determined. "Freya asked me to talk to you," he said. "She's not ready to do it herself yet, but she wanted me to tell you that she doesn't hate you." Relief crashed over Naomi so hard she had to sit down. "She doesn't?" "She's hurt and confused and angry that you didn't tell her sooner." Kang Dae sat across from her. "But she doesn't hate you. She's just trying to understand. Is she okay?" "She's Freya. She's processing." He smiled slightly. "She made a pros and cons list. That's how I know she's going to be okay." Despite everything, Naomi felt a small laugh escape. That sounds like her. She wants to know. He paused, choosing his words carefully. She wants to know if this is real, between you and my uncle. She needs to know this isn't just some temporary thing that's going to blow up and make everything worse. "It's real," Naomi said without hesitation. "I don't know where it's going. I don't know if it can survive all of this, but it's real." Kang Dae nodded slowly. "My uncle ended a 3-year engagement for you. Stood up to my great aunt for the first time in his life. I've never seen him do anything like that. So I believe you. But Freya needs to hear it from you, when she's ready." He stood. "Give her another day, maybe 2. She'll come around." "And you?" Naomi asked. "How do you feel about all this? Your family is in chaos because of me." "My family has been in chaos since my parents died," Kang Dae said quietly. "My uncle sacrificed everything to raise me. He gave up his 20s, his freedom, any chance at a normal life. And he never complained. Never asked for anything in return." He met her eyes. If you make him happy, if you give him a reason to live for himself instead of everyone else, then I don't care about the chaos. He deserves it. After he left, Naomi sat in the silence, his words echoing. He deserves it. Did she deserve it? Did she deserve happiness after everything she'd put her daughter through? She didn't know anymore. The next morning, Naomi found an envelope slipped under her door. Inside was a handwritten note in elegant script. Naomi C., I believe we should speak. Privately. The garden pavilion at 10 a.m. Come alone. It was signed simply, Mincio. Naomi's first instinct was to ignore it. Or better yet, to bring Hajun with her. But something in the formality of the note made her reconsider. This wasn't an ambush. This was a conversation Aunt Mincio wanted to have, woman to woman. At 10 a.m., Naomi made her way to the garden pavilion, a beautiful open structure overlooking the ocean, surrounded by tropical flowers. Aunt Mincio was already there, sitting with perfect posture, tea service laid out in front of her. Thank you for coming, she said, gesturing to the seat across from her. Please sit. Naomi sat warily. Tea? Aunt Mincio offered. No, thank you. As you wish. Aunt Mincio poured herself a cup with practiced grace. For a long moment, she said nothing, simply sipped her tea and looked out at the ocean. Finally, she spoke. I owe you an apology. Naomi blinked, certain she'd misheard. What? An apology. Aunt Mincio set down her cup. I was cruel to you. I said things designed to hurt you, to make you doubt yourself. And I did it because I was afraid. Afraid of what? Of losing him. Aunt Mincio's voice was soft. After my brother died, Hajun became my responsibility, my project. I poured everything into making sure he was strong enough to carry the family legacy. And in doing so, I forgot that he was also just a boy who needed to be happy. Naomi didn't know what to say. He was 13 when his father died. Aunt Mincio continued. 13 years old. And suddenly he was expected to be a man, to make decisions, to sacrifice. And he did it without complaint. He became everything I needed him to be. She looked at Naomi directly. But I never asked what he needed, what he wanted. I assumed duty would be enough. And now? Now I see him with you, and I see something I haven't seen in 12 years. Joy. Real, uncomplicated joy. Aunt Mincio's smile was sad. And it terrifies me, because joy is fragile. And what happens when it breaks? You think I'll break him? I think love breaks everyone eventually. Aunt Mincio picked up her tea again. But I also see that he's willing to risk it. And perhaps I've been wrong to try to protect him from that risk. Naomi's throat tightened. I don't want to destroy your family. You're not destroying anything. You're just changing it. Aunt Mincio met her eyes. Change is frightening, especially for someone like me who has built her entire life on control and tradition. But I'm trying to understand that sometimes change is necessary. Does this mean you approve? It means I'm trying not to disapprove. A hint of humor touched Aunt Mincio's expression. I still think you're entirely unsuitable for him. You're too old, too damaged, too complicated. You come with baggage and a daughter and a history of failed relationships. Thank you for the reminder, Naomi said dryly. But, Aunt Mincio continued, I also see that you make him laugh, that you challenge him, that you treat him like a person instead of a position. And perhaps that's worth more than suitability. Naomi felt tears prick her eyes. I love him, she said quietly. I didn't mean to. I tried not to, but I do. I know. Aunt Mincio's expression softened. I can see it in the way you look at him. The same way he looks at you, like the rest of the world has ceased to exist." She paused. "I may not agree with how this started. I may not understand it, but I can respect it. What about the family? The company? Jiwoo's father? Leave that to me." Aunt Minseo's voice took on its usual steel. "I've been managing this family's business relationships for decades. I can manage this too." She stood. "But Naomi C. understands something. If you hurt him, if you break his heart or walk away when things get difficult, you will have me to answer to. And I'm far more formidable than you realize." "I believe you." "Good." Aunt Minseo inclined her head. "Now, I suggest you go find your daughter. She's been sitting by the North Beach for the past hour, working up the courage to come talk to you." Naomi stood quickly. "She has?" "Kang Dae told me. He's worried about her." A small smile. "He's a good boy. Takes after his uncle in that way. Too much responsibility, too much heart." "Thank you," Naomi said. For this. Don't thank me yet. I'm still not entirely convinced this won't end in disaster." Aunt Minseo picked up her tea. "But I'm willing to be proven wrong." Naomi found Freya exactly where Aunt Minseo said she'd be, sitting on the sand, knees pulled to her chest, staring at the waves. "Hi," Naomi said softly, sitting down beside her. Freya didn't look at her. "Hi." They sat in silence for several minutes. Naomi didn't push, didn't demand, just sat and waited. Finally, Freya spoke. "I made a list. Pros and cons of you and Uncle Hajun. And the cons list was longer." Freya finally looked at her. "You lied to me. You snuck around. You caused chaos in Kangdae's family. You ended an engagement. You're 8 years older than him. The timing is terrible. The situation is complicated. And I had to find out about it in the worst possible way." Naomi's heart sank. "And the pros?" "The pros list was more important." Freya's voice softened. "You smiled. For the first time since the divorce, you actually smiled. You looked happy. You looked alive." She wiped at her eyes. "I spent 20 years watching Dad slowly kill every part of you that made you you. And then in 2 weeks with Uncle Hajun, I watched you come back to life. So yeah, the cons list is longer, but the pros list matters more." Naomi felt tears stream down her face. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I should have told you. I should have been honest from the start." "Yeah, you should have." Freya leaned her head on her mother's shoulder. "But I get why you didn't. It's scary, right? Wanting something for yourself?" "Terrifying." "Dad trained you well." There was bitterness in Freya's voice. "Made you think wanting anything was selfish. Made you disappear." "I won't disappear again," Naomi said firmly. "Even if this doesn't work out with Hajun, even if it all falls apart, I won't disappear again. I promise." "Good. Because I need my mom back. The real one. The one who takes up space and asks for what she wants and doesn't apologize for existing." They sat together, watching the waves until Freya spoke again. "I like Uncle Hajun. I always have. He's been good to Kang Dae. Good to me. And if you make him happy, if he makes you happy, then I'm not going to stand in the way." She squeezed her mother's hand. "But Mom, please don't lie to me again. Even when it's hard. Even when you're scared. I'd rather deal with complicated truth than easy lies." "I won't. I promise." "Okay." Freya stood, brushing sand off her legs. "So, are you going to tell me about the hotel room? Because Kang Dae told me there's some story about you thinking Uncle Hajun was an escort, and I need to hear this immediately." "Despite everything," Naomi laughed. "Oh God. Come on, I've earned the full story. Freya held out her hand to pull her mother up. And I want details. Not gross details, but details. As they walked back toward the resort together, Naomi told her daughter everything. And for the first time in weeks, the weight on her chest felt lighter. That evening, Hajun arranged a dinner. Not at a restaurant or on the beach, but in his villa. Just 6 people. Hajun, Naomi, Freya, Kang Dae, Aunt Min Seo, and Uncle Daejung. Are you sure about this? Naomi asked as they got ready. It feels like tempting fate. My aunt gave her grudging approval. Freya has forgiven you. Kang Dae is supportive. It's time we all sat down together and acknowledged what's happening. He pulled her close. No more hiding. No more secrets. I'm nervous. So am I. He kissed her softly. But we do this together. The dinner started awkwardly. Everyone knew why they were there, but no one quite knew how to begin. Finally, Aunt Min Seo cleared her throat. I believe I should start, she said. I have been resistant to this relationship. I have said and done things I regret. And while I still have reservations, I acknowledge that my nephew is an adult capable of making his own choices, even choices I don't fully understand. That's almost a blessing, Uncle Daejung murmured. It's the best you're getting. Aunt Min Seo shot back, but there was humor in her eyes. She turned to Naomi. You make him happy. Against all my expectations and despite all my objections, you make him happy. And that matters. Thank you, Naomi said quietly. I know this isn't easy for you. No, it's not. But little worth having ever is. Aunt Min Seo picked up her wine glass. To new beginnings, however unconventional. They all drank. Then Freya spoke up. I have something to say too. She looked at her mother. Mom, I'm sorry it took me so long to come around. I was scared that you'd get hurt again. That this would be another situation where you gave everything and got nothing back. But I see how Uncle Hajun looks at you. And I see how you look at him. And it's real. So yeah, this is weird and complicated and probably going to cause more drama. But I support you. Both of you. Kang Dae raised his glass. I'll second that. Uncle, you've spent your whole life taking care of me. Taking care of everyone. It's about time someone took care of you. Hajun's eyes were suspiciously bright. Thank you. All of you. He took Naomi's hand on top of the table. No more hiding. I know this hasn't been easy. I know we've caused disruption and stress. But I want you all to know that this... He looked at Naomi. This is the most important thing in my life. And I'm not giving it up. We're not asking you to, Aunt Min Seo said. We're just asking you to be careful. Both of you. Hearts are fragile things. We will be, Naomi promised. The rest of the dinner passed with surprising ease. Stories were shared. Laughter happened. Slowly, the 6 of them became something like a family. Unconventional, complicated, but real. As the evening wound down, Aunt Min Seo pulled Naomi aside. I meant what I said earlier, she said quietly. If you hurt him, you answer to me, but... She paused. I don't think you will. You have the look of someone who's been broken before. You know what it costs, and I don't believe you'll inflict that on someone else. I won't, Naomi said. He's too important. Aunt Min Seo nodded. Good. Then perhaps we can find a way to coexist. For his sake, if nothing else. I'd like that. As Aunt Min Seo walked away, Naomi felt Hajun's arms wrap around her from behind. That went better than expected. He murmured into her hair. Your aunt is terrifying. I know, but she's on our side now. Mostly. Mostly is good enough. He turned her around, cupping her face. I love you. The words hung in the air between them. It was the first time either of them had said it out loud. I love you too, Naomi whispered. I didn't want to. I tried not to. But I do. Good. He kissed her, soft and sweet. Because you're stuck with me now. There are worse fates. Name one. She laughed. I'll get back to you on that. The last few days of the vacation passed in a kind of dreamlike peace. Naomi and Hajun no longer hid. They held hands at breakfast, sat together at dinner, stole kisses in the garden while Freya rolled her eyes and Kangdae laughed. Aunt Mincio watched them with an expression that was equal parts resignation and grudging approval. She'd started addressing Naomi with slightly more warmth, though she still couldn't resist the occasional pointed comment about appropriate behavior and family propriety. One afternoon, Naomi and Hajun took the boat out to the cove one last time. We leave tomorrow, Naomi said, lying in his arms on the sand. Back to reality. Reality doesn't have to be bad, Hajun said. We'll figure it out. You say that a lot. We'll figure it out. Because we will. He kissed the top of her head. You live in the States. I live in Seoul. There's an ocean between us, but we'll figure it out. What if it's too hard? What if the distance, then I'll move. She sat up, staring at him. What? I'll move. To the States? I can run the company remotely. Or I can step down. Put someone else in charge. I've been doing this for 12 years. I think I've earned the right to choose my own life. Hajun, you can't. Why not? He sat up too. Why can't I choose you? Choose us? I spent 12 years choosing duty, choosing responsibility, choosing what everyone else needed. And where did it get me? Engaged to a woman I didn't love. Trapped in a life that was slowly suffocating me. He took her hands. You gave me a reason to choose myself, to choose happiness. Don't take that away by telling me I can't. But the company will survive without me, or it won't, and I'll have discovered I'm not as indispensable as I thought. He smiled. Either way, I'm not losing you because of geography. You're insane. Probably. He kissed her. But I'm yours. She kissed him back, pouring everything she felt into it. Fear and hope and love and terror all mixed together. When they finally broke apart, she rested her forehead against his. We're really doing this, she whispered. We're really doing this. It's going to be complicated. I know. People are going to judge us. Let them. Your aunt might change her mind and come after me with a knife. He laughed. Probably, but I'll protect you. My hero. Always. They stayed at the cove until sunset, talking about logistics and possibilities and futures that felt both terrifying and thrilling. The last morning came too quickly. Suitcases were packed. Goodbyes were said. The resort staff, who by now had figured out what was happening, smiled knowingly as the group gathered for one final breakfast. Well, Freya said, looking around the table, this was definitely the weirdest family vacation ever. But a good weird? Kangdae asked. Yeah, a good weird. She squeezed her mother's hand under the table. Aunt Minseo raised her teacup. To family, however unconventional. They all drank to that. As they made their way to the boats that would take them to the mainland, Hajun pulled Naomi aside. I have something for you. He pulled a small box from his pocket. Hajun, it's not a ring. Relax. He opened the box to reveal a delicate bracelet, silver with a small charm in the shape of a wave. I noticed you lost yours in my villa, the one Freya found. I thought you should have something to replace it. Something that reminds you of this place. Of us. He fastened it around her wrist, his fingers lingering on the inside of her wrist. That spot he'd touched so many times before. Yobo, he whispered. Mine. Yours, she agreed. They kissed, not caring that the others were watching, that the boat was waiting, that reality was rushing toward them. When they finally broke apart, Naomi smiled. So, what now? Now? Hajun took her hand. Now we figure it out. Together. Together, she echoed. And for the first time in her life, Naomi believed that together might actually be enough. 6 months later, Naomi stood in her kitchen watching the snow fall outside her window when her phone buzzed. A text from Hajun. Flight lands in 3 hours. Miss you. She smiled, typing back, Miss you too. Dinner at 7? Perfect, I have news. She set down her phone just as Freya walked in, shaking snow from her hair. Still snowing? Naomi asked. Like crazy. Freya grabbed a mug of coffee. Is Hajun coming tonight? Yeah, he lands this afternoon. Good. Kangdae and I want to talk to you both about something. Naomi raised an eyebrow. Should I be worried? No, it's good news, we think. Freya grinned mysteriously. You'll see. 6 months. 6 months since the island. 6 months of phone calls and video chats and plane tickets and stolen weekends. 6 months of learning how to love someone across an ocean. 6 months of hard and beautiful and terrifying. Hajun had been true to his word. He'd started delegating more at the company. He'd promoted a trusted colleague to COO. He'd started spending more time in the States, weeks at a time, then months, and slowly, impossibly, they'd built something real. It hadn't been perfect. There had been arguments about time zones and missed calls and the frustration of wanting to touch someone who was thousands of miles away. There had been moments when Naomi wondered if it was worth it, if the distance would eventually break them. But then, Hajun would show up at her door with flowers and that smile that made her forget why she'd been worried. Or she'd wake up to a text that said nothing but, Yobo, and she'd remember. This was worth it. He was worth it. They were worth it. By the time 6:30 rolled around, Naomi was a bundle of nerves. She'd cooked his favorite meal, or at least her American approximation of it. She'd changed outfits 3 times. She'd checked her phone obsessively for updates. When the doorbell finally rang, she practically ran to answer it. Hajun stood on her doorstep, snowflakes in his hair, a suitcase at his feet, and that smile on his face. Hi, he said. Hi. Then she was in his arms, and he was kissing her, and the world narrowed down to just this. His mouth on hers, his hands in her hair, his body warm and solid and real. I missed you, she whispered against his lips. I know, I missed you too. He pulled back to look at her. But that's going to get easier. What do you mean? The news I mentioned. His smile widened. I've been working with the board. We've agreed to a new structure. I'll remain CEO, but most of my work can be done remotely. I'll still need to go to Seoul once a month, but otherwise... He took her hands. Otherwise, I can be here. With you. Naomi's breath caught. Are you serious? Completely, if you'll have me, if you want me here. If I... She laughed, tears streaming down her face. You're moving here? For me? For us. He kissed her again. I told you I'd figure it out. This is me figuring it out. What about your aunt, the company, everything in Seoul? My aunt surprised me. She said, and I quote, if you're going to be foolish, at least be efficiently foolish. She's been planning this structure for months. I think secretly she's pleased I'm finally putting myself first. I don't deserve you. Wrong. You deserve everything. He cupped her face. And I plan to spend the rest of my life proving it to you. Before she could respond, Freya's voice called from inside. Mom, is that Hajun? Because Kang Dae and I are starving and we need to have this conversation now. Hajun laughed. I think we're being summoned. Welcome to family dinner. It's loud and chaotic and nothing like your formal Korean dinners. I wouldn't have it any other way. They walked inside together, hand in hand, and Naomi realized something. She was home, not the house, not the town. Him. He was home. And for the first time in 43 years, that was enough. 1 year later, Seoul. The conference room on the 42nd floor of the Han Group building had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Seoul skyline. Naomi stood at those windows, watching the city pulse with life below, and tried not to feel intimidated. You're nervous, Hajun said, appearing beside her with 2 cups of coffee. I'm terrified, she corrected, taking the cup. Your entire board of directors is about to walk through that door and judge whether I'm worthy of being here. They're not judging you. They're thanking you. Same thing. He smiled, pressing a kiss to her temple. You're the reason I've been more productive in the past year than the previous 5 combined. Trust me, they're grateful. Or they hate me for taking their CEO away half the time. Our revenue is up 18%. They definitely don't hate you. Before Naomi could respond, the door opened and board members began filing in. They were exactly as intimidating as she'd imagined. Older men in expensive suits, a few women in equally expensive designer wear, all with expressions that gave nothing away. Aunt Mincio was among them, naturally. She'd claimed her seat on the board after Hajun restructured, saying someone needed to keep an eye on things. But when she caught Naomi's eye, she gave the smallest nod of acknowledgement. The presentation went better than Naomi expected. Hajun walked them through the past year's achievements, the new remote work structure, the expansion into North American markets that Naomi had helped facilitate with her understanding of Western business culture. When he finished, the chairman, a man in his 70s with shrewd eyes, spoke. Mr. Han, when you first proposed this arrangement, I'll admit I had doubts. The idea of running a company of this size while living abroad seemed... He paused. Unconventional. Naomi's stomach dropped. However, the chairman continued, the results speak for themselves. You've been more focused, more innovative, and frankly more pleasant to work with than you've been in years. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Relief flooded through her. I think we all know what he's doing. One of the younger board members said with a smile, looking at Naomi. Or rather, who's responsible for the change? Hajun took Naomi's hand. I want to introduce you all formally to Naomi Thompson. She's been my partner in every sense of the word this past year. And I'd like the board to approve her as a consultant to the company, specifically for our North American expansion. Naomi's head snapped toward him. What? You have an MBA you've never used. You have 20 years of experience managing a household budget that would put most CFOs to shame. And you understand both American and Korean culture now. He squeezed her hand. Why shouldn't you work with us? I second the motion, Aunt Min Seo said crisply. Naomi C. has proven herself valuable. We'd be fools not to utilize her skills. The vote was unanimous. As they left the building later, Naomi was still in shock. You could have warned me. And ruined the surprise? Hajun guided her into the car. Besides, you would have talked yourself out of it. Convinced yourself you weren't qualified. I'm not. You are. He kissed her. When are you going to stop being surprised that people value you? Probably never. Then I'll keep reminding you. Dinner at the Han family home was always an event. The house was traditional, elegant, filled with 3 generations of history. Aunt Mincio presided over the table like a queen, with Uncle Daijung at her side, Hajun and Naomi across from them, and Kangdae and Freya at the ends. "So," Aunt Minseo said as the meal wound down, "when are you two going to make this official?" Naomi nearly choked on her tea. "Excuse me?" "Marriage," Aunt Minseo said bluntly. "You've been together over a year. He's moved his entire life around for you. It's time." "Aunt," Hajun started. "Don't aunt me. I may have accepted this unconventional arrangement, but there are still proprieties to observe. You're both adults. You're in love. You should get married." "We've talked about it," Naomi said carefully. "But with the divorce still relatively fresh and everything being so complicated—" "Life is always complicated," Aunt Minseo interrupted. "That's not a reason to avoid commitment. If anything, it's a reason to embrace it." "She has a point," Freya said, grinning at her mother. "You do live together half the time." "3/4 of the time," Kangdae corrected. "He's barely in Seoul anymore." "Because everything I need is in the States," Hajun said, looking at Naomi. "Including you." "How romantic," Uncle Daejung murmured. Though Minseo does have a point. Marriage would make the business arrangements cleaner. Visa issues alone. "Are you all seriously discussing my hypothetical marriage like a business transaction?" Naomi asked. "Yes," they said in unison. Despite herself, Naomi laughed. This family, this loud, opinionated, surprisingly loving family that had somehow become hers. "For the record," Hajun said, "I have thought about marriage, extensively. And when I ask Naomi to marry me, if she wants that, it won't be because of business arrangements or visa issues or family pressure." "When you ask?" Naomi raised an eyebrow. "Pretty confident, aren't you?" "About you? Always." He took her hand. "But I'm not going to rush you. We have time." "You're both impossible," Aunt Minseo declared. "But I suppose I can wait. I've been waiting for Hajun to find happiness for 12 years. A few more months won't kill me." "Generous of you," Hajun said dryly. 3 days later, they returned to the island for the anniversary of their first night together. It was Hajun's idea. A surprise weekend away. Just the two of them. They took the same boat to the same cove, spread a blanket on the same sand. "A year ago," Naomi said, lying in his arms as the sun set, "I thought my life was over. Thought I'd spend the rest of it alone, trying to figure out who I was after the divorce. And now? Now I know exactly who I am." She turned to look at him. "I'm the woman who walked into the wrong room and found the right person." "Smooth," he teased. "I learned from the best." She kissed him. "Thank you." "For what?" "For seeing me. For refusing to let me hide. For loving me even when I was convinced I was unlovable." "You were never unlovable." His hand found the inside of her wrist, that familiar spot. "You were just surrounded by people who were too broken to see what they had." "And you're not broken?" "Oh, I'm definitely broken. But I'm broken in ways that fit with how you're broken. We make sense." She laughed. "That's the most unromantic romantic thing anyone's ever said to me." "I have my moments." They watched the sunset in comfortable silence. Then Hajun shifted, sitting up and pulling her with him. "What?" she started. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Naomi's breath caught. "Hajun, let me say this before I lose my nerve." He opened the box, revealing a simple but stunning ring. A single diamond on a platinum band. "I know my aunt just pressured us about this 3 days ago. I know the timing probably seems suspect, but I've been carrying this ring for 3 months, waiting for the right moment." 3 months? "I bought it the day I officially moved to the States. Because I knew then what I know now. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I want to wake up beside you. I want to build a life with you. I want to grow old with you and argue about whose turn it is to make coffee and watch you steal all the blankets and tell you every single day that you're the best thing that ever happened to me." Tears were streaming down Naomi's face. "I'm not asking because of business arrangements or visa issues or family pressure," he continued. "I'm asking because I love you. Because you're my home. Because a year ago you walked into my hotel room and changed my entire life, and I want to make sure you can never walk out again." "That's kidnapping," she said through her tears. "Then I'm guilty." He took her hand. "Naomi Thompson, will you marry me?" She looked at the ring, at his face, at the sunset painting, everything gold, and felt the last piece of her broken heart click into place. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes. Yes, 1,000 times yes." He slipped the ring on her finger, then pulled her into a kiss that tasted like salt and happiness and futures that no longer felt terrifying. When they broke apart, both laughing and crying, Naomi held up her hand to watch the diamond catch the fading light. "Aunt Minseo is going to be insufferable about this," she said. "Absolutely. She's going to plan the entire wedding in a week. Probably. And she's going to make sure it's the most traditional Korean wedding in history. Almost certainly." He kissed her again. "Worth it?" She thought about the past year. The fights and the makeups, the distance and the reunions, the fear and the courage, the breaking and the healing. She thought about room 1147 and the cove and midnight meetings and stolen moments. She thought about Freya's acceptance and Aunt Minseo's grudging approval and Kang Dae's quiet support. She thought about waking up beside this man every morning and how that never got old. How he still touched the inside of her wrist when he wanted her attention. How he still whispered "Yobo" against her skin in the dark. How he still looked at her like she was the only person in the world that mattered. "Worth it," she agreed. "All of it. Every terrifying, complicated, beautiful moment." "Good." He stood, pulling her up with him. "Because we have a wedding to plan. And knowing my aunt, she's already started. She doesn't even know yet. Trust me, she knows." He grinned. "She always knows." 6 months later, Aunt Minseo had indeed known. By the time Hajun and Naomi returned from the island, she'd already compiled a list of venues, caterers, and appropriate wedding dates according to the lunar calendar. "I knew you'd come to your senses eventually," she'd said smugly. "I was simply being prepared." The wedding ended up being a compromise. A traditional Korean ceremony followed by a Western reception. They held it at a beautiful venue outside Seoul that somehow managed to honor both cultures. Naomi wore a hanbok for the ceremony, traditional Korean dress in deep burgundy and gold. Freya stood beside her as her maid of honor, wearing a complimentary hanbok in lighter shades. "You look beautiful, Mom," Freya whispered as they prepared to enter. "I'm terrified," Naomi admitted. "That's how you know it's real." Freya squeezed her hand. "Dad never scared you. Not like this. Because you never had anything real to lose. But Hajun, he scares you because losing him would actually hurt. When did you get so wise?" "I learned from the best." Freya kissed her cheek. "Now come on. Your husband is waiting." The ceremony was beautiful. Traditional bows and ceremonial drinks and promises made in Korean and English. Aunt Minseo cried. Actually cried, which no one had ever seen before. Uncle Dae Jung looked proud. Kang Dae beamed at his uncle like his parents would have if they'd been there to see it. But the best moment came during the reception, when they'd changed into Western wear and were dancing their first dance. "Any regrets?" Hajun asked, holding her close as they swayed to music. "Just one," Naomi said. He pulled back, concerned. What? That I didn't walk into the wrong room sooner. She smiled. Think of all the time we wasted. We had to get to this point first. You had to learn who you were without your marriage. I had to learn who I was without the weight of everyone's expectations. He kissed her forehead. We met exactly when we were supposed to. Even if I did leave cash on your nightstand? Even then. He grinned. Though I'm keeping that money. Framed. A reminder that the best things in life come from the most unexpected mistakes. I'm not sure being called a mistake is the compliment you think it is. You're not a mistake. Walking into room 1147 wasn't a mistake. The only mistake would have been walking away and never coming back. Good thing I'm stubborn. Good thing I'm persistent. They kissed, and around them the reception continued. Two families blending, two cultures merging. Two broken people proving that sometimes the wrong room leads to exactly the right place. 2 years later, the hotel in Seoul was different from the one where they'd first met, but Hajun had arranged for them to stay in room 1147. They don't actually have a room 1147, Naomi said as he led her down the hallway. They do now. I had them rename it. He opened the door with a flourish. Welcome home. The room was nothing like that first night. This one was a suite, beautifully appointed with a view of the city lights. But there were touches that echoed that first meeting. A bottle of whiskey on the bar cart, the same kind of blanket on the bed, even the same subtle scent in the air. You're ridiculous, Naomi said, but she was smiling. I'm romantic, he corrected, pulling her inside. There's a difference. Debatable. He closed the door and pulled her close. Do you remember what you said to me that first night? Before you kissed me? No, I was terrified. You said, I want to remember what it feels like to be seen. His hands cupped her face. Do you feel seen now? She thought about the past 3 years, about everything they'd built, everything they'd survived, everything they'd become together. Every day, she whispered. Every single day. Good. He kissed her softly. Because I plan to keep seeing you for the rest of our lives. What if I get old and boring? Impossible. You're already old. Ow. He laughed as she swatted him. I'm kidding. You're timeless, beautiful, perfect. Better. And even if you do get boring, which you won't, I'll still see you. Still want you. Still love you. Promise? Yobo. He murmured against her lips. I promise. They made love that night in room 1147, but it was different from that first desperate encounter. This was unhurried, familiar, a conversation between two people who knew each other's bodies as well as their own. This was coming home. Afterward, as they lay tangled in sheets, Naomi's phone buzzed. A text from Freya. So, I have news. Can we video call tomorrow? Naomi smiled. Freya has news. Good news or bad news? With Freya, it's always an adventure. She turned to face him. But that's okay. We're good at adventures now. We are, aren't we? He pulled her closer. Who would have thought? The woman who walked into the wrong room and the man who was too broken to fix himself. And now? Now we're the woman who knows exactly where she belongs and the man who finally found home. That's sappy. I don't care. He kissed her. I get to be sappy. I'm married to you. Unfortunately for you, you're stuck with me now. Unfortunately? He raised an eyebrow. Best mistake I ever made was being in that room when you walked in. Best mistake I ever made was walking in. To wrong rooms and right people, he toasted with an imaginary glass. To wrong rooms and right people, she echoed. Outside, Seoul glittered in the darkness. Millions of lights, millions of stories, millions of people trying to find their way. But inside room 1147, 2 people had already found theirs, and that was enough. The next morning, they video called Freya. She appeared on screen looking nervous and excited, Kang-dae beside her, both of them barely containing smiles. "So," Freya said, "remember how you guys are the most dramatic couple ever and had this whole forbidden romance thing?" "Vaguely," Hajun said dryly. "Well, Kang-dae and I decided we can't let you have all the drama." Naomi's heart skipped. "Freya, we're engaged." Freya held up her hand, showing a ring. "He proposed last night." Naomi burst into tears. Happy tears, proud tears, overwhelmed tears. "Congratulations," Hajun said, grinning. "Kang-dae, you finally did it." "I've been planning it for months," Kang-dae admitted, "but I wanted to make sure I did it right." "And he did," Freya said, beaming at him. "It was perfect." "I'm so happy for you, sweetheart." Naomi managed through her tears. So happy." "There's more," Freya said. "We want you guys to help plan the wedding, and Mom?" She looked directly at the camera. "I want you to be happy for me without worrying about me. I want you to celebrate without guilt, because you taught me something important this past few years." "What's that?" "That it's okay to want things. That it's okay to be happy even when it's complicated. That love is worth fighting for, even when everyone says it won't work." Freya's eyes were bright. "You spent 20 years making yourself small for Dad. Then you met Hajun and remembered how to take up space. And watching you become yourself again, that taught me more than any advice you could have given." Naomi couldn't speak, could only cry harder as Hajun wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "So thank you," Freya continued, "for being brave enough to walk into that wrong room, for being brave enough to stay, for showing me that sometimes the wrong thing is actually the right thing if you're willing to fight for it." "I love you," Naomi finally said. "I'm so proud of you." "I love you too, Mom. Now stop crying and start planning. Because if Aunt Minseo finds out about this engagement before we officially tell her, she's going to plan both our weddings without asking us." "Too late," Hajun said. "She probably already knows." As if on cue, there was a knock on their hotel room door. Hajun opened it to find Aunt Minseo standing there, fully dressed despite the early hour, holding what looked like wedding planning binders. "I understand congratulations are in order," she said crisply. "Kang-dae and Freya's engagement. Excellent news. I've taken the liberty of compiling some initial venue options." She swept into the room, already talking about dates and guest lists and traditional ceremonies. Naomi and Hajun looked at each other and burst out laughing. "I told you she knows everything," Hajun said. On the phone screen, Freya and Kang-dae were laughing too. "This is our life now," Naomi said, watching Aunt Minseo unpack her binders. "Chaotic and loud and completely unpredictable. Better than small and quiet and safe," Hajun said, kissing her temple. "Much better," she agreed. And as Aunt Minseo began her presentation on appropriate wedding venues, as Freya and Kang-dae chimed in with their own ideas from the phone, as Uncle Dae-jung appeared in the doorway with coffee for everyone, Naomi realized something. This was family. Messy and complicated and sometimes overwhelming, but family nonetheless. 3 years ago, she'd walked into the wrong room and found a stranger. Now she had a husband, a blended family, a daughter getting married, and a future so bright it sometimes scared her. But she wasn't running from the fear anymore. She was running toward the joy, and that made all the difference.